The tape is already rolling when everything stops. In a dim recording studio late at night, Prince leans forward, one hand hovering over the mixing console, the other raised, not dramatic, just enough. A single note hangs in the air, still vibrating through the monitors. It's wrong. Not off-key to most ears, not sloppy, just wrong to him. The engineer freezes. The band goes silent. The room holds its breath around that one note, caught on magnetic tape, waiting to be judged. Prince doesn't yell. He doesn't explain. He simply says, "Stop, play that back." And in that moment, an entire track is on trial. Days earlier, the atmosphere around this recording session was already tense. Prince was deep into a project that mattered, another studio album, another fight for control disguised as creativity. The studio itself was a familiar battlefield. Dim lights, expensive equipment, reels of tape stacked like evidence. By this point in his career, Prince had the reputation of being impossible and unstoppable at the same time. According to accounts from engineers and musicians who worked with him, sessions could stretch until morning, driven by his refusal to accept anything that didn't align with what he heard in his head. Every chord progression, every drum hit, every vocal inflection was subject to scrutiny, especially one note. The rules of this world were clear. Recording studios were supposed to be democratic spaces in theory, collaborative in marketing brochures. In reality, power lived with the artist who paid for the time, or the label that owned the masters. Prince was both insider and adversary. He had hits, leverage, and a contract that still loomed over every decision. That contract sat like an invisible object in the room, shaping what could and couldn't happen. He was expected to deliver songs that fit radio formats, that didn't scare executives, that could be mixed quickly and shipped. But Prince treated the studio like a laboratory, not a factory. One note could invalidate hours of work. At rehearsal earlier that week, the same song had already raised eyebrows. A keyboard line repeated again and again, hypnotic but sharp. A band member reportedly asked if the tension was intentional. Prince didn't answer with words. He walked to the piano, played the section himself, and stopped on the exact note he would later kill in the studio. He let it ring. Then he shook his head. The gesture was small, but everyone noticed. That note had already been marked. Industry pressure was building around this track. Label representatives had visited the studio days before, standing behind the glass, arms folded. One of them allegedly said the song was almost there, the most dangerous phrase in music. Almost meant compromise. Almost meant change it later. Prince nodded, polite, distant. The tape kept rolling. The note stayed. For now. By the night of the recording, fatigue had stripped the room down to its essentials. No entourage, no distractions. Just Prince, the band, the engineer, the console, and that section of the song. The red record light glowed steadily. According to people present, the take was strong. Tight groove, clean performance. The kind of take most producers would protect. As the song reached the section with the problematic note, Prince's body language shifted. He stopped moving. He listened. When the note hit, his eyes narrowed. He raised his hand. Tape stopped. "Play it again," he said, pointing at the speakers. The engineer rewound the tape, fingers careful on the reels. The note returned exactly as before, preserved perfectly. Prince crossed his arms. He asked who played it. No one spoke at first. Finally, someone answered. Prince nodded, walked into the live room, and sat at the instrument himself. He played the same phrase, but when he reached that moment, he changed one thing, just one note. It bent the mood of the entire track. Darker, tenser, alive. This wasn't just about sound. That note represented control. Control over mood, over meaning, over ownership of the song's soul. According to insiders, Prince believed a wrong note could betray the emotional truth of a track, even if the audience never consciously noticed it. The tape machine captured everything, including mistakes that weren't mistakes yet. As the band listened to the new version, no one argued. The engineer reportedly glanced at the clock, aware of the cost of studio time, aware of the label's expectations. Prince didn't care. He looked at the console, then at the band, then back at the tape. "We're fixing it," he said, not a suggestion, a decision. Outside that room, contracts still waited, deadlines still loomed. And somewhere between that raised hand and that altered note, the song was about to become something else entirely. The next night, the studio feels different. Same room, same mixing console, same reels of tape stacked beside the machine, but the energy has shifted. Prince arrives without announcement, drops his bag near the piano, and goes straight to the instrument. No small talk. The song in question is already queued up on the tape machine, the exact section with the disputed note marked in grease pencil. The engineer presses play. Prince listens again, arms folded, head tilted slightly toward the speakers. That note hits. Again. Still wrong. At rehearsal earlier that evening, tension had surfaced quietly. A band member reportedly asked whether the altered note was final. Prince didn't answer immediately. He walked to the drum kit, tapped the rim once with his finger, then pointed back toward the keyboard. "It changes everything," he said. Not louder than conversation, but definitive. In that room, hierarchy was understood through gesture more than volume. One pointed finger outweighed any argument. The label's expectations hover in the background, even if no executive is physically present. A phone sits on the console, face down, waiting to ring. Everyone knows the album's budget, the clock ticking with every minute of studio time. The tape reels themselves feel like witnesses, each one holding a version of the song that could be sent upstairs, approved, released. Prince knows this. That's why he keeps returning to the same few seconds of tape, rewinding and replaying the moment where the note lives. According to accounts, he listens not just for pitch, but for intention. By midnight, the discussion becomes practical. The engineer suggests punching in the new note. Surgical, efficient. Prince shakes his head. He wants the full pass again. From the top. The red record light clicks on. The band exhales together. This isn't just about replacing a sound. It's about committing to a feeling. The note can't be isolated like a stain removed from fabric. It has to grow naturally out of the performance. As the take unfolds, Prince stands near the console, eyes locked on the musicians through the glass. When the song approaches the critical section, he raises his hand again, not to stop, but to cue attention. The new note lands. It's subtle, almost identical on paper. But the room reacts. The bass player glances up. The drummer adjusts his grip. The groove shifts by a fraction of a degree. That fraction changes the temperature of the song. Playback follows immediately. The tape rewinds with a soft mechanical whir. Everyone leans toward the speakers. The altered note arrives, and this time Prince doesn't flinch. He closes his eyes. When the section ends, he lets the tape run. Silence stretches. Finally, he nods. "That's it," he says. But the relief is short-lived. That morning, a meeting is called. Same studio, different energy. A label representative reportedly listens to the new mix, arms crossed, brow furrowed. "It's darker," he says, gesturing toward the speakers. "Radio might not like that." Prince doesn't sit. He stands near the tape machine, hand resting on the reel. "The song likes it," he replies. The object in his hand, the tape itself, becomes leverage. Without it, there is no track. Without his approval, there is no master. The conversation circles the same point. One note, cost versus vision, market versus instinct. Prince keeps returning to the same argument, always tied to that moment on tape. If that note stays the old way, he says, the song lies. According to people in the room, no one challenges him directly. They talk around it. Prince talks through it. As night falls again, the studio empties out. Only Prince and the engineer remain. The console lights glow softly. The revised track plays on loop. Prince listens from different positions in the room, near the speakers, near the door, sitting on the floor. Each time the note hits, and each time he stays still. He's testing it, not for perfection, but for truth. The engineer finally asks if they should lock the mix. Prince looks at the tape, then at the piano across the room, then back at the console. "Tomorrow," he says, one more time. That decision hangs heavy, because tomorrow means commitment. Tomorrow means this version replaces all others. The tape is left threaded in the machine, paused just before the crucial section. The note waits, frozen in magnetic particles, seconds away from either becoming history or being erased forever. The following night, the studio is quiet in a way that feels deliberate. No visitors, no label voices on speakerphone. Just Prince, the engineer, the console, and the tape already cued to the exact moment that matters. The same song, the same section, the same note, now altered, sharpened in feeling rather than pitch. The red record light is off. This isn't about capturing another take. It's about deciding which truth survives. Prince stands behind the engineer as playback begins. When the track reaches the critical passage, the note hits exactly as he fixed it the night before. The reaction is immediate but internal. He exhales. No hand raised this time. No interruption. When the song ends, he leans forward and taps the console once with his finger. "Print it," he says. That's the moment. The fix is no longer an experiment. It's the record. According to people close to the session, the change ripples outward fast. The engineer prepares the final mix. The earlier version, hours of work, a perfectly acceptable performance, gets labeled and shelved. That older note still exists, locked on another reel of tape, but it's officially dead. One decision, one gesture, one altered sound rewrites the track's identity. The next morning, copies of the mix are sent out. Somewhere in an office far from the studio, an executive presses play. The same comment comes back. It feels darker, tenser, different. But this time there's no debate. The master has been printed. Prince's name is on it. The system adjusts because it has to. The song moves forward with that note embedded in its spine. Musicians who later heard both versions reportedly described the difference as psychological rather than technical. On paper, the change is minimal. A half-step shift, a different emphasis. But emotionally, the track breathes differently. That one note changes how the chorus resolves, how the verse leans, how the listener feels tension without knowing why. It's a reminder that records aren't just built from melodies, they're built from decisions. In the weeks that follow, the song finds its place on the album. It sits among other tracks, but insiders know it carries a scar from that studio standoff. Prince reportedly references it later when talking about discipline in music. Not perfection, discipline. The willingness to stop everything because of one note that refuses to behave. The larger system takes note too. Engineers, producers, and musicians who work with him afterward come in prepared. They know the tape machine can be stopped at any second. They know a raised hand means everything. The object that once symbolized delay, the halted reel of tape, becomes a symbol of authority. Prince controls not just the sound, but the moment when sound is allowed to exist. That's the real shift the fix created. Not just a better track, but a clearer hierarchy. In an industry built on compromise, Prince demonstrated that authorship could be enforced down to a single note. According to accounts, some collaborators found it exhausting. Others found it liberating. But all of them understood the rule. If the note lies, the song collapses. Years later, listeners play the track without knowing any of this. They don't hear the ghost of the old version. They don't know about the late nights, the rewound tape, the raised hand. They just feel something slightly unsettled, slightly pulled forward. That feeling comes from a decision made in a quiet room over a few seconds of sound. This is what the story reveals. Prince didn't stop the recording because he was obsessive. He stopped it because he believed music carried truth, and that truth could be betrayed by something as small as one note. In a system that rewards speed and compliance, he chose delay and confrontation. The fix changed the entire track because it proved something larger. Control isn't about volume or force. Sometimes it's about the courage to stop everything and listen. One note was enough to test the song. One decision was enough to bend the system. And once that tape rolled forward, there was no going back.